guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. So obviously we've been here before, right? How many freaking times has this happened? You know, this experience that we have of seeing the same thing happen over and over again is the main reason why I always end up making the same prediction. Donald Trump says something, it's perceived as crazy, outlandish. The media says he's a nutcase, he's an extremist, he's inciting violence through this insane rhetoric and conspiracy theory. Every time the media reacts to one of Trump's supposedly outlandish, controversial statements like that, I always end up saying the same thing. Watch him end up being right. I pretty much guarantee you, not every time, but most of the time, Donald Trump's gonna end up being vindicated. And well, would you look at that?
You look at that.
Yeah, well.
Would you look at that?
Yeah,
I guess vindication is on the menu, folks. They said Trump was racist, a conspiracy theorist. He's fear-mongering about immigration. He just doesn't like Mexican people. He's gonna put kids in cages and create concentration camps at the southern border because he's just such a deeply hateful man. That's what they claimed, but it seems as though Donald Trump was right in his 2016 warning. Frankly, he's been right as he's repeated essentially the same thing for the last 8 years or so, and now I guess the truth is finally being revealed. When Trump was talking about Latin American countries emptying their prisons, when he was saying that there's RAPISTSs and murderers coming over the border in droves, they called him crazy, but it turns out that's exactly what's happening. And of course, the important part, it all happened under the watch of Democrats, and to make matters even worse, we're now learning that they essentially tried to hide it. We got some stuff to get into. This is possibly one of the biggest crime stories ever, so let's get into the details. Let's roll the tape. Alright folks, it all starts with this clip right over here. Here's Aaron Heitke, the former chief patrol agent for U.S. Customs and Border Protection, testifying in Congress, and what he says, well, frankly, it's just shocking.
In San Diego, we had an exponential increase in significant interest aliens. These are aliens with significant ties to terrorism. Prior to this administration, the San Diego sector averaged 10 to 15 SIA arrests per year. Once word was out the border was far easier to cross, San Diego went to over 100 SIAs in 2022, well over that in 2023, and even more than that registered this year. These are only the ones we caught. At the time, I was told I could not release any information on this increase in SIAs or mention any of the arrests. The administration was trying to convince the public there was no threat at the border. Fentanyl is another issue. The San Diego area sees between 80 and 90% of the methamphetamine and fentanyl seizures annually for our entire country. With little enforcement at the border, these drugs were coming through en masse. During my last year in San Diego, the price for a single pill of fentanyl, for example, went from $10 to 25 cents. To make matters worse, during 2022 and 23, I had to shut down San Diego traffic checkpoints, which are critical for drug interdiction, because the resources had been diverted to the process and release mission. The large numbers also had and still have a negative impact on the San Diego community. I had to release illegal aliens by the hundreds each day into communities who could not support them. To quiet the problem, 2 flights a week were provided from San Diego to Texas. These flights simply brought aliens that would have been released in San Diego over to Texas. Each flight cost approximately $150,000. This was the administration's way to try and quiet the border-wide crisis.
Holy frickin' moly. Folks, this man just said that under oath. That is an official testimony from a high-ranking Customs and Border Patrol chief who worked directly under the Biden administration. And this claim is wild. It's wild for a couple reasons. Firstly, the sheer scale of it, the numbers. And secondly, the accusation of deception. He claims the White House knew that this was happening. They were warned repeatedly, and obviously they knew, but they worked diligently to hide the problem. This is absolutely freaking insane, to be honest. I think it's the biggest immigration scandal probably ever. I mean, the scale of it is insane. It goes well beyond Aaron Heitke's testimony, as now some official numbers start to drop. Just take a look at this.
ICE has something called a non-detained docket. Essentially what that is it means migrants who were encountered by DHS but are no longer in federal custody. So who's on this non-detained docket? It's illegal immigrants who were caught and released at the border, released with the court date years away. They're in immigration proceedings, combined with illegal immigrants who have already been ordered deported from the country by a judge but are still here roaming the country. So keep that in mind, this non-detained docket. According to a letter that the acting director of ICE just sent to Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez, on ICE's non-detained docket, they're currently tracking 425,000 non-citizens who have been convicted of a crime. Of that number, over 13,000 non-citizens have convictions for homicide and are on the non-detained docket, meaning they're roaming the country right now. On top of that, there are another 15,811 non-citizens convicted of sexual assault who are roaming the country right now on ICE's non-detained docket. It doesn't stop there. Those are convictions. The ICE director also says there are currently just under 1,900 non-citizens on the non-detained docket who have pending homicide charges who are roaming the country, and another 4,250 non-citizens who have pending assault charges who are roaming the country on the non-detained docket. So
the director of ICE is now admitting that 425,000 known convicted illegal immigrants have been released into the United States, including 13,000 who are convicted of homicide and 15,000 convicted of SA. Folks, this isn't just negligence. It is a complete betrayal of American safety. How do you look people in the eye after allowing literal criminals to walk freely into the nation and people's neighborhoods, for Pete's sakes? How do you do it? And for the last 4 years, Kamala Harris and other Biden officials have gone on the record claiming the border is secure.
We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration.
One of our highest priorities is to ensure that we have a secure border, and that is what we are doing.
The border's secure, they've said. It's insane. This entire time, Democrats have been touting this humanitarian approach to immigration. They're just refugees. It's a refugee crisis. How absolutely insane. They've made it sound as if they're on the right side of history. They're the compassionate ones, with a righteous approach to immigration. But all the while, they've turned a blind eye to the criminal elements pouring over the border, and in the process, gaslighting and slandering anybody who highlights what they're obviously doing. It's insane, and once again, it comes right back to that point. You know, Democrats say Republicans are wrong when they speak like this, but what other conclusion can you come to other than the Democrats clearly have contempt for the American people and they hate the nation that they pretend to serve? I can't come to any other conclusion. We've seen Venezuelan gangs take over neighborhood blocks, and all the while Trump's been saying that Venezuela is emptying their prisons and sending all of those people up north. Again, that was supposedly a conspiracy theory, but Trump was right. That's exactly what they're doing, except it's even worse. They're allowing these people in and then they're busing them and flying them straight to your neighborhood. You know, honestly, I'm struggling to come up with commentary here because the only thing that keeps coming to mind is this is insane. I mean, this is crazy. We care about the kids, the refugees, fleeing violent gangs in violent countries, and all the while, these supposed refugees, which are mostly economic migrants, a good chunk of them weren't fleeing the crime, a good chunk of them were the crime. I mean, what the actual F? And speaking of gaslighting, now we have tough on the border czar Kamala Harris, a real tough prosecutor, campaigning at the southern border. I think Scott Jennings at CNN said it best.
There'll be no love for me or Republicans for Kamala Harris today. In fact, I think the Trump campaign line today ought to be arsonist returns to scene of crime. I mean, look at the last 3.5 years. We've got the border has effectively been open, people flowing across. ICE today released information that there are 13,000 non-citizens convicted of homicide and almost 16,000 non-citizens convicted of some kind of crime who are in the country right now. Only because we're in the shadow of an election is Kamala Harris trying to rush and pay some lip service to this issue as a tactical matter. Anderson, I don't think Harris should be trying to elevate this issue because this is the best ground from which Donald Trump has to fight. So, no, I think the Harris campaign is making a tactical mistake, and I think they have very little to say that the American people are going to buy on this today. Anderson, it's worse than that. It's not that it took them too long. It's that they actively worked to undo everything Donald Trump had done during his time in office. On the first day, they rescinded all of Donald Trump's border executive orders. The floodgates opened. All these people come rushing across. Then it becomes a political problem. And now at the end of the election, they want to blame it on Donald Trump. For her entire career, she has wanted a more permissive immigration structure. When she ran for president before, she wanted to decriminalize border crossings. In her heart of hearts, she wants a more liberal, permissive immigration structure. And in his heart of hearts, Donald Trump wants to crack down on the border. That's why when you look at the CNN polling this week, Trump is far more trusted on immigration than Harris. That is not going to change because of this visit today or anything she says today. The die is cast on this issue. If I were her, I'd want to bury this issue, not make it more prominent. But hey, if she wants to have border events, I think Republicans will rejoice because it'll increase the prominence of this issue for the last month of the campaign.
Essentially, it's the arsonist heading back to the scene of the crime. And this situation makes it crystal clear why this upcoming election matters so much. It's a very simple question. Do you want more of this chaos, where criminals are allowed to run free and the leaders of your nation just shrug? Oh, well, what can you do? Or do you want leaders who will actually do their job, protect the people that they swore to serve? And look, this is what the Democrats have to defend now. Their failure to secure the border, their willingness to release violent criminals, and their absolute disdain for the American people's right to be safe. I mean, this is an indefensible scandal. I do not see how Democrats can possibly get out of this one. Of course, without the media's help, I'm sure the media is going to do their darndest to make sure this story never sees the light of day, at least within the mainstream information sphere. You know, the media is never going to hold Kamala Harris to account, never going to hold the Democrats to account, but there's one group of people who can, and that group of people is called the American people. This is a political scandal of the highest order. It's something that you simply should just not be able to get away with. And I'm going to make it absolutely clear, Kamala Harris is the face of this scandal. She said,
Do not come. Do not come. The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border.
"Don't come," she told the migrants, as she and the rest of these clowns within the Biden administration essentially allowed everybody to come unimpeded, even career violent criminals. Again, I can't think of anything fancy to say. The only thing that's popping up in my brain is, holy crap, this is insane. And frankly, anybody who voted for this or who plans to vote for this, you might be insane too. Holy freaking crap. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.